Welcome back, guys. Chris here, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the order to cash process flow in Business Central. So to start off, let's take a look at a sort of a generic example of how order to cash can flow, not just for Business Central, but really for any system. And to do that, we're going to take a look at a graphic here. Starting off, we've got a sales order record. So this is the initial, really an intention from the customer that they want to buy something from the company. There's not any actual financial impact at this point. That will come a bit later. So we have that sales order initially registering that agreement between the company and the client that there's an intention to purchase some item. And of course, off of that comes a shipment. So the shipment of, let's say it's 10 widgets, we send the 10 widgets out to that customer. That is then encapsulated in the shipment record, which is the first, what's called general ledger impact or record of some kind of financial impact in the system as a result of this transaction. And then beyond that, it doesn't actually come off of the shipment record, although it looks like that in this graphic. It really comes off of the sales order, which I'm going to show you a little later in this video. From that sales order then comes the invoice record. So the point of the invoice is we've sent those 10 widgets out to the customer, and we are now notifying, both from our standpoint and to the customer, that they owe us payment for those 10 widgets being sent out to them. So they have the invoice record, which of course has its own general ledger impact. And then finally, there is the record of payment. There's some form of payment. This could happen in many different ways. It could be a check from the customer. It could be a credit card transaction. It might be a wire transfer straight to our bank. Many different ways that could happen. And really, if we're looking at this overall order to cash flow, again, this is the generic flow. There are so many different variations that can happen to this flow. You could have an instance where the product that you're delivering is really a service. Thus, there's no physical good that needs to be shipped out to the customer, and you could skip that shipment step altogether. You might also have an instance where what you're selling is a physical widget in a store. The customer takes it off the shelf, pays for it cash, and walks out with it, which is sort of a cash and carry transaction, and in which case you don't need that sales order, you don't need the shipment, you're going straight over to that sales invoice. And those are just two variations. There are so many different ways you can bit and piece this together depending on the circumstance. Now, if you're finding this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I'm coming out with more and more Business Central content every week, and I have two courses already at this point. One is a free basics course that you should definitely check out. And if you're looking to get your Business Central consultant certification, I have a full-length course preparing you to take and pass that examination. So if you're interested in any of that, I'll include links for the courses down below, and stay tuned. And with that in mind, let's now dive into order to cash, specifically looking at how this progresses in Business Central itself. So let's jump into it. All right, to start off, we're going to come over here and close this banner, which gives us our little quick actions here, one of which is to create a new sales order. So I'm going to click on that, and it brings us to this page to generate a new, what's called a sales order document. Documents are just whatever transactions you're dealing with. They're always referred to as documents, as opposed to cards, which are the master records, like item cards, customer cards, etc. So here we are on a sales order document. The first thing we're going to do here is we're going to obviously put in our customer. So let's say we go with Trey Research. So Trey Research is our customer, and we're going to minimize this over here. So we've got a bit of a smaller window pane that we're dealing with, and we can come down here and we can see the items that we're going to attach for the sales order. So we're going to keep it relatively simple and add in our most popular product, which is our Athens desk. Let's say we're a furniture making company. So we're adding in this desk, and we're going to put in 10 of those desks. Okay, so we have that quantity, and as soon as we put that information here, it takes the 10. If we scroll over here, you can see the unit price is $1,000. So 10 of them in total comes out to $10,000 in total. It puts the tax in there and the total including tax. So it fills in all this basic information. And at this stage, what we have here is a saved sales order. Even though we haven't hit save anywhere, if I show you up here, we have this little icon indicating that this record has in fact saved. So the way that things happen in Business Central, if you're still getting used to things, it's different than if you've dealt with QuickBooks or even something like NetSuite ERP, where When you save something, let's say in QuickBooks, once you save it, it is now a saved record in the system that is operating, especially those that have GL impact. As soon as you hit that save button, like a journal entry, for example, you are now recording that thing and it's going to have financial impact in the system. But not the case when you're dealing with Business Central. Just by creating this new sales order, putting in some basic information, it saved this unposted version of this transaction. That's not going to have any real impact in the system, but we can come back to it. We can look and reference back to it if we need to. If we want to progress forward from this, not a major step forward like we saw in the chart where we're going to move on to the shipment, but we have a sort of a sub-step we can take forward, which is called releasing the sales order. And you can see that here. So what releasing means is it takes it just from a sort of an initial entry that doesn't impact anything, and it solidifies it, it locks it off, and it says, okay, this is now a serious sales order. So for example, if we're looking at the inventory management side of things, or even the manufacturing process, if we need to make these desks, it can now give and communicate that information over to the other departments like the warehouse, the manufacturing floor, etc. So they know this is a sales order, this demand is going to be hitting us. We need to be thinking with this in terms of replenishing our stocks, whether through purchase or through manufacturing. So releasing it would lock it off, and I'm even going to click on that now, so that we can create that, and you can see status then changed to released. Now, none of the actual information changed here because releasing doesn't change the record, it just locks it off. It says this is a serious sales order. So if I come down here now and we can see our quantity here, previously I could have just gone in there and I could say instead of 10, I want it to be 4. But if I try to do that now, where I come in and I change the quantity, it immediately gives me an error message saying, hey, this is a locked off released record. You can't just come in here and start changing things. It doesn't have that capability. So I have to come back here. I have to change it back to 10. And then if I come here, I have the ability to refresh this, basically calming down, saying, all right, fine, we're not going to affect anything. Now, if I do want to come in here and start modifying, changing things, I have to come over here and hit reopen, which unreleases it to give me the capability of modifying things, which is absolutely something that might happen. You get a call from the customer saying, listen, we don't want 10, we actually need 8. You might need to do that. And that's fine. We haven't yet posted this transaction. Now, once you post it, that's a whole nother step forward from releasing it, where it's like you're carving it in stone, not just for a sales order, but any transaction or journal entry in Business Central. Once you post it, you are carving it into the system. And it is not like you can just come in here, unrelease it, and then change the numbers. You have to go through an entirely different process if you want to, let's say, undo something that's posted. And I'll show that in later videos. So for now, we've got our Athens desk going out to this client tray research, which you can see up here. And we've got our 10. So now we want to progress this thing the next real step forward, not just releasing it, but actually sending this thing out. So what we can do is we can come over here to post. We actually have a few options here. We can post and send an email to the customer letting us know that we've actually saved this sales order and we're progressing forward on it. We can also review the posting. So if we want to see what is this thing going to influence, we could preview that before posting it. We could, if we're doing many sales orders at the same time, we could post it, immediately create a new sales order document for another transaction. But in this particular case, we would just want to hit post. And it gives us 3 options. So at this point, remember, we're on that sales order. We got shipment record next in the generic flow, but there might be variations to this. In this particular case, it's asking us, okay, we've got that sales order. In this point, we've shipped this thing out. Do we want to say that we've shipped it and we want to go straight to that invoice generation, which would be pretty common if we had sent these 10 desks out? We would want to reflect the fact that that shipment is now complete and we want to send the invoice out to the customer. That is pretty common, but there might be variations to that. And I want to show an example of that. Let's say we just want to ship it out because maybe we're not going to ship all 10 desks at once. We're only going to ship 5 in the first shipment and then the remaining 5 in the second one. So we're not necessarily jumping forward to the invoice step because we're going to be doing shipments over a period of time. So we would come in here to ship. Now, I actually don't want to hit OK on here because if I hit OK, that's going to ship the entire 10. I want to modify this. I'm going to hit cancel. And I'm actually going to reopen this because I do want to modify something on the record. So we come down here, we still have our quantity of 10, but if I scroll over here, you see we get to this section where it says quantity to ship, quantity that has been shipped, how many to invoice, etc. So I want to change this to be 5. So I come here and I'm going to release this, which by the way, you don't have to release it. You can go straight to posting if you want. That will handle the releasing as part of the posting. It all just happens at once. But in this particular case, it's common where you would release it, and then when you're actually ready and it has been shipped out, you then go to post. So now I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to hit just ship, and I'll hit OK on this. And what it's going to do is it's going to generate that posted shipment record, which I'm going to show you in a second. But for now, understand it brought us right back to the sales order. And you can see here, these numbers now changed where the sales order is still for 10 desks, but we can see the quantity that has been shipped is now 5 and the quantity to ship is 5. So now what we can do is we can come back over here to post. Let's say it's a week later or however long until we've shipped those remaining 5 desks. We go to post again. We're going to hit ship one more time. This time it's going to ship that remaining 5 because we see that listed here. And we hit OK on that. And great. Now you can see all 10 have been shipped. And now what we can do, I'm actually going to duplicate this page because I want to keep that page there. But I also want to show you the fact that those posted shipment records now exist. And I can come down here to posted sales shipments. So if I click on that, so it says 56, that's in total, right? So I can find the 2 that are applicable to this one sales order. And you can see both of those here. Obviously, this is filtering it just by tray research. This is not showing us all shipments. It's only limiting it to the ones relevant to this particular customer. And these top 2 are going to be the ones that we just dealt with. So for example, if I click on this first one, it's going to be 5 desks. And if I back out of this sales shipment and I go to this other posted sales shipment, the one that came right after it, again, it's that remaining 5. You can see that down here. Okay, so those are now real records, real documents in the system, posted sales shipments. You can use those for a number of different purposes, but now we want to go back to our sales order and spark off that invoice. So at this point, we come over here, we come back to post, and we're going to hit invoice. So the shipments are all complete. We're ready to invoice this thing, and it's going to finalize that sales order record and then generate that posted sales invoice. And it even tells us, listen, these things were posted. Do you want to go off of this sales order record onto that invoice record? And of course I do, because I want to see that information. So I come here where now you can see it says here, this is a posted sales invoice document with tray research. You can see it's not canceled. Everything is settled. It gives the various dates, etc. It shows the 10 desks. We can come down here. We can see the full amounts tied to this thing, etc. Now, there are a lot of other things you could do at this point with this record. If you, at this point, let's say it's now a paid record, we could come in here and we could start reversing these things. If we wanted to undo what had been completed, we could do that by coming up here, correct, cancel, or create corrective credit memo. I'm going to get into all of that in a later video, and I'm going to get into a lot of other aspects of this in subsequent videos and courses. For now, just understand we've created that third step in the generic flow, which is our posted sales invoice. So now the question comes about, how does this get paid and how does this all get reconciled? So in this particular case, we've shipped out 10 desks to Tray Research, and let's say they send us a check. So how would that get recorded? Well, what we would do at that point is we go to the cash receipt journal, which if I come up here to our Tell Me bar, by the way, you can open up the Tell Me bar, which is what we're looking at here. That's what it's called. You can do that by coming up to this magnifying glass, but you can also do it with a shortcut. If you're going to learn any shortcuts, this is the one I would highly recommend you use. Alt-Q, if we click that, it's just a fast way to open it up without having to use the mouse. It opens up the Tell Me bar, and we can go to Cash Receipt Journal, and you can see that right here. So we can click on that. And I have other videos and courses where I go into the subject of journals and journal entries, etc. The simple version is this is where we can record the fact that we've received that check for the payment of those 10 desks. So we could put that in, we could put the customer record info, we can add a description relation to it, posting group. In the last video, I talked about posting groups. We can have the balancing account. So in this particular case, there's gonna be one element of it, which is gonna be affecting our bank account because we're depositing that check into our bank, but then another element of it is gonna be affecting the customer. So this payment is gonna be tied to that customer record and the posting groups that are relevant to customers. And then there's a lot of other information, and you can add dimensions and all kinds of things tied to this, what really is a journal entry in the cash receipt journal. And of course, when that thing is completed, we would then post that journal entry, which would then actually hit our ledgers. That gets into an entirely different topic. So let's say for a second, I'm not going to walk you through that, but just let's take that as granted. We've put in that journal entry, we've posted it, we've got that transaction now. Now let's say we have an instance where we've got maybe multiple invoices with trade research that are outstanding. So our accounts receivable department is chasing up trade research to get payment. And let's say they send us one check that's going to pay off 3 outstanding invoices. Well, we can record that all in Business Central. So we're going to go back to our Tell Me bar and we're going to open up Register Customer, and it should come up, Register Customer Payments right here. If we click on that, it brings us to a listing of all of the invoices that are outstanding that need to have payments connected up with them to completely close out that transaction. And you can see this is all customers currently. So you can see we have trade research here. This is one invoice, but we have another one for trade research down here and on and on. So let's say we get one check for those 3. What we can do is we can come here and we can say that the payment has been made. So we can come here, we can click here, here, and here. And by the way, this is by no means the only way you can handle this. This is just simply one way that allows you to come in and have multiple invoices all tied to one check that came in. So I can select these 3, I can come up here to post payments, tying those 3 things together. Now, before we jump out of this, there's one additional thing I want to show you because I think it's very relevant to the order to cash process. And we're going to do that by coming back to our Tell Me bar and going to Sales ampersand receivables. Now, obviously you could say this is sales and receivables, but if you actually replace the ampersand symbol with an and, notice nothing comes up. I've seen some people have a hard time with that because they just think, oh, it's sales and receivables and they can't find it. You have to put an ampersand, you get this come up. I click on that. This is a window that gives us a lot of different settings and configurations, all relevant to order to cash and various aspects of it. Now, I've talked about this in great length in my certification course for what's called the MB 800, and I have a link for that down below. But the simple version is we've got all of these different features, and you can easily hover over any one of these and get a pretty decent description of what these things do. It's affecting everything from credit warnings, stock out warnings, how do you want to handle multiple invoices? Do you want to always default to the quantity that needs to be shipped? All of these various things can be input, as well as we can come down here. And if we want to have batch jobs that get queued up and handled all as one, kind of in the background, we can come down here to background posting. We can configure and set up these things. There are so many different features here that can be set up that will influence in some way your order to cash process. All right, and that's your overview look at the order to cash process flow in Business Central. As I said already, if you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. And with all that in mind, I hope to see you in the next video.